Imagine you're going to work on Monday. You're not looking for any trouble. When all of a sudden you see down the hall, Tiffany is coming your way. Now you don't really like Tiffany that much, but you don't want to make waves. She comes to you and goes, "Oh my God, did you hear about Terry in IT? He was caught." She stops, she sniffs. "Oh my gee, what are you wearing? You have to tell me. You have to tell me." You don't want any trouble. You say, "Oh, it's a new fragrance I just got." "You gotta tell me. What is it? What is it?" You're thinking, "Okay, what's the harm in this? Coco Mademoiselle. Oh, it's lovely." Yeah. You think that's the end of the conversation? It's not. You think you didn't do damage? You did. Next week, Tiffany comes in with your fragrance, wearing it all over the place, and now it is her fragrance. And if people do smell it on you, they're just going to think about her and how annoying she is. All the hundreds of dollars that you spent sampling fragrances, the time to find your signature scent in the toilet. Now you understand the purpose and the rational, logical reasoning of gatekeeping a fragrance. Gatekeeping a fragrance is finding a fragrance that's really good. And honestly, with fragrances these days, you get a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Okay, you can only put bergamot, patchouli, and so many things. You find a rare fragrance, a unique fragrance that you love. It's your signature scent. You don't want to tell everybody about it, because then they'll all smell like you. There is reasons for gatekeeping. However, there are a lot of negatives. Being in Ferregamo fragrance community, we suck at gatekeeping. We just do. When we find a new fragrance, we want to share it. We want to tell the world about it. We want to tell our friends about it. You all are awful at gatekeeping, and that's what I love about you. And I'm terrible at gatekeeping. That's why I have these videos, right? So, I'm going to go over 10 fragrances that I think people gatekeep a lot, gatekeep the hell out of. And then the last one is going to be, if I did have a gatekeeper fragrance, it would be mine. This would be mine. But I don't believe in gatekeeping, so let's go. There's a lot of negatives to gatekeeping. One of them is if you don't tell people about the fragrance, the manufacturer's going to stop producing it. And with absolute bonehead decision makers trying to drive their companies into the ground, getting rid of their best selling fragrances, they don't need any help with that. They make enough bad decisions on their own. So, let's just start with number 1. Timestamps for you to follow along. Skip ahead, go back, whatever you want to do. This is in just about no particular order, but just the one closest to me. And this first one is a cheapie, and this is Bentley For Men Absolute. Now, Bentley For Men Intense is a very common fragrance, well-known fragrance. It is a gorgeous, boozy, gourmandy type of fragrance. I think someone posted on one of my videos that it was over $100 when it came out. I was like, oh, I don't know about that. As far as it being worth it, I don't question that it was. I believe them. Then we have Absolute. I got Absolute with high expectations, but this managed to exceed them all. This is not a fragrance that is unheard of. People know about Absolute, but not nearly as many as, for instance, Bentley For Men Intense. This is a leathery, woody, rich, complicated fragrance. And all suck at gatekeeping, which means, I mean, honestly, that's the greatest compliment I can give you. You're wonderful, wonderful people. Someone told me in the comments that a little bit about this guy. The perfumer that did this was the same perfumer that did Gucci Pour Homme designer fragrance. Very expensive fragrance, discontinued. The same perfumer just copied Gucci Pour Homme. It made this. It's the exact same thing. Except this is under $30 because of that rich, complex, boozy, fancy, expensive, smells like a $200-300 fragrance. Because of that, people want to gatekeep it. They want to protect this fragrance, and the fact that Gucci Pour Homme is also not a thing anymore leads me to believe that that was gatekept as well. Is that even a word? I don't know if that's even a word, but first one is Bentley For Men Absolute, and I need to try Bentley Black. Bentley Black is supposed to be really good too. Moving on, this next one is probably one of my favorites that I have here on this table, and I don't want to use it because I believe it's a limited edition. I don't think they're going to make this long term anyways. And this is from the absolute Herculean company right now that's blowing it out of the water, Hugo Boss. And this is Boss Bottled Triumph Elixir. This is very similar to Boss Bottled Elixir, which is one of the best fragrances of 2024, and I will die on that hill. Top 3 at least. This is very similar to that. Some people say they get leather, some people say they get oud, type of incense kind of approach. This is Bottled Elixir, which everybody loves. I shouldn't say everybody, I'm sure there's some people that don't, but phenomenal fragrance. But this adds labdanum, and it's almost like a candied version of Boss Bottled. It's similar, but it is more mass appealing. So here's the thing, this is why this is on the list. Boss Bottled has thousands of reviews. Boss Bottled Absolute is a fragrance that I still cannot get my hands on. It's that popular. I wake up every day covered in sweat, heart racing. Just first thing I do is I look over to my left and see a wall that has nothing but holes in it from me punching it the day before in sheer frustration, anger, and regret that I cannot get Boss Bottled Absolute. I'm joking, but very, very popular fragrance. Even the scent Elixir, which I have on the way here, I'm excited about, is very popular. This is not popular. If you ask 10 women what they prefer, because Boss Bottled is very masculine fragrance. If you ask 10 women, I think 9 of them, 8 or 9 of them, are going to prefer this on a man than Boss Bottled. It's just as intense, but it's sweeter, and it has that candy kind of note to it, pixie stick kind of vibe to it. For the thousands and thousands of purchases of Boss Bottled and reviews, you have a couple hundred for this. And I can't tell if it's because people are gatekeeping this fragrance or they just don't know about it. I don't know. As a man, is this better than Boss Bottled? Maybe not for me, because I really like those heavy masculine fragrances, but this is a more mass appealing, more feminine appealing fragrance version of Boss Bottled, and conflicting in was a mistake. Even buying this, I thought I was buying Boss, or actually no, I bought Boss Bottled, looking for this, Boss Bottled Elixir, looking for this. And once I realized that I love Boss Bottled Elixir, and that Triumph Elixir existed, it was an immediate purchase. I didn't even think about it. So, I find some of them at Ross and Rack stores, and such a good fragrance, such a good fragrance. Okay, let's do one more, and then let's mix it up with the weird one that's gonna throw you all. So, this one right here is appreciated in Fragcom, not as much with everyday individuals who just don't know about this. The line, the house is Lalique, which is a niche house that I don't think a lot of people know about. And this is Brioni Intense. This is one of my first blind buys, and I bought this off a suggestion from Chaos Fragrances, who, if any of you are curious where I get my fragrance suggestions, I don't get that many now. I get a lot more information through forums and my own research and reviews, but when I first got into it, it was Chaos, obviously Gent Sense with Ash, and Trace Sense. There's one reviewer that I don't think I ever bought anything off his suggestions. He's a niche fiend. If it's not niche, he doesn't really like it. But his name was Tazo, and this is one of those that I blind bought, and it's so unique. Such a unique fragrance. It has this Italian bergamot, this mentholated opening vibe that's just gorgeous. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous opener. And when it sits down, it's a little bit more chill, more masculine, a little bit more woodsy. But this is a Brioni named after the design house. So I guess you could say that this is a designer fragrance. But Brioni contracted with Lalique. So I consider it a niche fragrance, but it is from a design house. This just does not get the love that it should, and I think there was a little bit of hype, but I think because of its unique nature, people tend to hide this a little bit, and it doesn't get the rounds that it should. Ermenegildo Zegna is another design house. Same thing. Those fragrances get swept under the rug a little bit, and it smells expensive. It smells luxury. It's a gorgeous spring scent, and it's one that I'm gonna really abuse in spring. And it's fully because it's black, right? You think spicy, dark, rich. It's not. It's friendly, it's inviting, but it's also complex, and it's citrus sweet. It's a gorgeous fragrance. Let's do one more, and then I'll go to the weird one that I got for you all, just because that'll be my halfway point. Okay, from the house of Perfumes de Marly, I think possibly one of their best fragrances, but in any account, it is definitely the most underrated, overlooked, and I can't tell if people just don't want to tell anyone about this fragrance, because it's really, really good, and is the best performing Perfumes de Marly that I have found. Mass appealing, gorgeous, wonderful fragrance. And this is Galloway So speaking of the spring fragrance, summer fragrance, this is a clone of another Lalique fragrance, Lalique White. But this is Eau de Parfum concentrations, better performing, better fragrance all around than Lalique and White. This is a mass appealing, citrus, sweet, fougere, green type fragrance. So, while everyone is wearing green Irish tweed, which this has a strange resemblance to on the top notes, but settles very different. Green Irish tweed, very spicy in the dry down. This is not. This fragrance lasted me probably 16 hours and probably 4 or 5 solid hours of projection, which is just kind of unheard of. But I really think for those of you who are looking for a spring fragrance, summer fragrance, who don't like the aquatics, you want something fougere, green Irish tweed-esque. This is one of the best fragrances that is totally hidden from the world. And it's Galloway, named after the Galloway horse. Parfums de Marly, they have weird names, all of them named after horses, except for Pegasus. Pegasus isn't a horse, man. It's a horse-ish. Unless, was there a real, breed named after the mythical Pegasus? I don't know. Whatever. I'm not gonna die on that hill tonight, okay? This is the weird one that I warned you all about. I have 2 of them, and they both go to the same thing. And it is Club de Nuit Intense. Now, you're probably thinking, how is this a Gatekeeper fragrance when the Eau de Toilette is one of the highest selling fragrances, greatest selling fragrances on Amazon and other places? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. This fragrance is lied about every day. Every single day, people get out of their bed and they make a decision to lie about this fragrance. I've seen it. It's close to Aventus, but there are distinct differences. If you are intimately familiar with Aventus, you can tell the difference. This is better blended, better projecting. Club de Nuit Intense is, and Aventus keeps different spaces between notes is the best way I can describe it. With something like Club de Nuit Intense, it's so well blended together. You're just getting Club de Nuit Intense. Aventus, you're getting all the different notes you can still articulate. But getting back to my point, people lie about this fragrance all the time. And when you ask them what they're wearing, they say Aventus. And then they're begging you to ask, what is Aventus? So they can tell you, oh, it's Creed. It's $300 a bottle. Yeah, I bought it. I wear it. You're a liar, man. You are lying. Here's the thing. Nobody even knows what Creed is or Aventus. You ask 100 people on the street, one of them might know what the House of Creed is. People as a whole are not super concerned about fragrances. So going out and lying about your fragrance and saying that it's the niche fragrance when you're wearing a cologne, it's madness. And that's why it's on the list, because I consider that a gatekeeping methodology. They're refusing to tell the people what they're actually wearing because they're telling them it's Aventus. No, I have a backup here. It's the same vibe. This is Supremacy not only intense, and I put this in here because this gets all the glory for Aventus colognes, and this should get a lot more attention than it does. This is more of a Hasselblad cologne, meaning it's a little bit darker. It's not as much citrus base. It's not as bright on the dry down, but it's an incredible fragrance. This is an extrait, very high, super concentrated fragrance, and I think it's overlooked. But to me, that still fits a gatekeeper fragrance, because people they're not honest about it. Not everybody, obviously, not everybody, but more than any other fragrance, I don't think people are wearing the camera. And when people say, oh, what are you wearing? They're going, oh, it's that Angel Share by Kilian. I don't think it's nearly as common. Then people lying about this. They lie about it every day, man, every day. Next, again from the House of Creed. I actually had to look for this. Frag heads will come out and tell you about this fragrance, but no one else will. Whenever you ask what the best Creed is, it's not unanimous, but it is the large majority will tell you about this fragrance. And no one talks about it. No one talks about it. They will say this is the best Creed fragrance, and no one talks about it, and this is Royal Oud. We talk about Aventus. That's about it. Aventus, maybe Viking every now and again. Absolute Green Irish Tweed. That's about it. But this fragrance right here is not a killer, as you can see. Very light juice. A lot of oud fragrances are very dark, rich and complex. This has a lot of woods in it, a lot of different types of woods in it that does not lend itself to being overly oudy, meaning that it's not super offensive to those who don't like oud. This fragrance right here, it just screams quality. It screams masculinity, quality, sensual, sexuality, attraction. And people just don't talk about this. They gatekeep the hell out of this fragrance. Royal Oud. But if you go to the forums, people will be honest with you. But if you don't go to the forums, people got it. They're not telling you about it. And I will say, not my vibe, but I can identify, recognize, and compliment a beautiful fragrance when I see it, and that is one of them. It's also a $300 fragrance. I don't know if it's worth that. Next, we have one of the most overlooked fragrances of all time, and really well gatekeeping of this fragrance. This is from the house that I had to learn about from a small-time fragrance channel, because not even the big boys were talking about this fragrance. This is from the house of Trussardi, and this is Riflesso. You can see how much I've used of that bottle, and if you've been with me for any period of time, you know I wore one fragrance and I might not wear it again for another 3 months. So I don't run out. I don't run down my fragrances. Every day is something different. So that's a huge compliment to have that much missing. This is a souped up, not a clone, but souped up vibe version of La Nuit de l'Homme. Spicy aromatic. I don't like super aromatic fragrances, and I really like this. It reminds you of a better day, like in the 90s when you had those clean, aromatic, sensual type fragrances. If you smelled La Nuit de l'Homme, you know what I'm talking about, man. It is that gorgeous, sort of But this is a $35 fragrance that is an incredible performer, projects well, and hits way above its weight class. Trussardi Riflesso. Okay, next we have a designer fragrance that I don't think gets a lot of love, but I know people wear it. People talk about this fragrance infrequently. This is from the house of Salvatore Ferregamo and made by a master perfumer, Alberto Marias, who made CK1 and Acqua di Gio. This is Uomo. This is one of the most gorgeous gourmand fragrances you'll ever put your nose on. Again, this is an eau de toilette concentration. This is, I'm actually going to spray this one. This is a beautiful, oh my god, it's gotten so much better as it's sat. This is a leathery, oudy, rich, complex, boozy, lovely fragrance. To me, when it comes off the base, it smells like a Tootsie Roll. But it dries down to being a little bit more serious, somewhat leather, intense. Alberto Marias, this is a weird one for him. He's a lot of florals, fruity, spring, summertime fragrance. This is a weird showing for him. He made a black tie fragrance one. This is similar, not that the two are clones or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. It is a similar, rich, complex vibe, and when he goes complex, he does a really good job. And despite this being an EDT, I can see the oil sheen on my hand. So despite this being an EDT, the oil concentrations there, it's projecting, it's performing well. This is in the same wheelhouse as Galloway and Phantom, Black Phantom by Killian. Black Phantom, is that correct? Black Phantom. I feel like that's not correct. Black. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like boozy, rich, complex. Beautiful fragrance in the winter. We'll cut right through it. $35 fragrance. Incredible value. Wonderful. Is it Black Phantom? I think it is. I'm gonna go. Final answer. I'll double down on it even if it's wrong. This next one is a huge Gatekeeper fragrance. Everyone wants to talk about the flagship fragrance of this house. If you want to call it a house, I call it a house. That is so good, that Uomo, that is so good. Oh my goodness. Everyone wants to talk about CR7. No one wants to talk about this. No one's talking about this. They're hoping you don't figure out this fragrance. And actually, it's worked. The prices of this have gone down so low. It's crazy. And it's Legacy. Cristiano Ronaldo Legacy Private Edition. I believe one of, if not the first, eau de parfum concentrations by Cristiano Ronaldo, excuse me. And what you are getting here is so unique. You are getting a strong blast of maple syrup up top, which kind of has like jupe done right, the syrupy kind of vibes, but not off-putting at all, not sickeningly sweet, not cough syrup. A syrupy, gourmandy, sweet fragrance. When it dries down, this guy will last 6 hours, 7 hours. I've done tests with this. Whenever I test fragrances, I will do spray, one on each hand, and then one on each wrist. And actually the wrist should perform better because it's a pulse point, it generates more heat. this blew him out of the water to the point where, I mean, it was competing against niche fragrances and designer fragrances, and it beat them all. And I'm like, why aren't you all talking about this? This is an incredible fragrance for the young man, for the middle-aged man. Doesn't matter. It works with all of them. Gorgeous fragrance. Last one is also a bit of a strange one because this is not a super unheard of fragrance. This is not a fragrance that you probably haven't seen before, but I have a reason why I put it on here. And this is from the house of Valentino, and this is Valentino Uomo, and I haven't even featured this. I haven't even posted my unboxing of this yet. That's, y'all getting a sneak peek. This fragrance, the reason why it's here is because it has a couple thousand reviews on Fragrantica, but this is in the same wheelhouse as Dior Intense, Dior Homme Intense. This is in the same wheelhouse as Dior Homme Perfume, even more so the Parfum because of its leather note, even though the reformulation screwed that up, but has about a fourth to a fifth of purchases, of reviews, of publicity as those Dior fragrances. I'm gonna tell you this right now. I wore that and Dior today. Compare them side by side. And this either tied it or, in my personal opinion, beat it. This is a $70 to $80 fragrance. Dior Homme Intense, $130, $150 fragrance, depending on the size, obviously. The Parfum, over $200 fragrance right now. On the website, I think it might be $180, but you have third-party sellers because of the supply and demand selling it for even $300. When this is going to do just as good, if not better, as those things. If I was into gatekeeping, I would gatekeep this. Why not? Everyone's out there with their Dior Homme Intense, their Dior Homme Parfum, and you're here, and you spend half the money, and you have an even better performing fragrance. This is your iris leather bomb that everybody loves about the Parfum of Dior Homme. And it does so in a much more reduced standpoint. This is intense eau de parfum, concentration, beautiful scent. I can't wait till it macerates a little bit more. Performs even better. Holy cow. That is my 10. Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. Now from my personal Gatekeeper fragrance, your reward for watching till the end. Oh, this one actually, I don't gatekeep at all. But this one, I'm almost tempted. Like, that's how good it is. I never knew love until I smelled this for the first time. And it changed my life forever. I only have the Cologne version right now because the actual version's brand new release. And I don't know if I'm actually going to buy it, even though I love it, because it has very limited uses. And it's just not something I can wear everywhere. It is a Gourmand fragrance, and the clone of it here is Gourmand Illusion, but the actual fragrance is Gourmand, Mirage Gourmand by Les Nobles, and this is Dua's interpretation of it, Gourmand Illusion. This opens with a super fragrant, super aromatic, super sweet note, and it dries down into almond cake, super unique, super gourmand. One of the best fragrances that I have ever smelled in my life. And this is one of those gatekeeper fragrances. People who smell this don't want everyone to know about it because it is so unique. And people aren't talking about this. They cloned it at Dua. It's not selling great. People don't know about this because no one wants to talk about it and tell everybody about it. This is one of the greatest fragrances that I've ever smelled, bar none, period. Hundreds of fragrances in my collection, and I've sampled many more, and this is top 5 easily. It's just going to continue to get better because this is a recent brew, a recent batch. It's just going to get better, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle that. I'm going to spray and just like pass out of pure excitement. I don't know. But moral of the story, don't gatekeep fragrances. You gatekeep fragrances, it stops the joy of collecting. First off, I wouldn't have known about Brioni Intense, was one of my favorite fragrances, if not for a small-time YouTuber. I wouldn't have known about Triumph Elixir, if not for a small-time YouTuber. No one told me to get Galloway. This was a total blind buy that I ended up loving. Never would have known about Ronaldo's private edition, if not for one of you. One of you recommended it. So, don't gatekeep fragrances because you stop the love. And if you are going to gatekeep fragrances, be specific, man. If you know Tiffany is annoying and you think she might rip off your fragrance, don't tell her. Tell her that you got jupe. You got jupe pour home. And let it go. But gatekeeping fragrances, it just leads to those fragrances not selling well. And then no one ever wears them again. It's like, I can't have you, nobody will kind of things. It's just kind of crazy, but there are certain times and maybe it might be appropriate, and I'm sure it's tempting for a lot of fragrances, but in this community, it can be very acidic. Very acidic. I learned that when I made my channel. Before YouTube started recommending me to ASMR listeners, it was recommending me to just the general fragrance community, and the fragrance community can be one of the most acidic, toxic places in the world. Let's change that. Let's change that. It's about the love of fragrances. You disagree, that's fine. This is a subjective thing that we're in. What's going to be appealing to you is not going to be appealing to me in every type, every case. But that doesn't mean that we should stop trying to share